Welcome back to the Observable Unknown. There comes a point in life when the future begins containing more and more events you'll never see. Children will grow older, buildings will change hands, people you taught will teach people you'll never meet. Someone may repeat a sentence you once said without remembering where they heard it. The world continues, and maturity eventually asks a very strange question of us. What relationship do you have with a future in which you're absent? We often speak about legacy as though it were reputation. Will people remember my name? Will my work survive? What will they say about me when I'm gone? But reputation is only one small form of legacy. Most human influence becomes anonymous. You'll never know every decision affected by something you taught. You won't see every kindness reproduced because someone once received it from you. You may never discover which of your mistakes another person decided not to repeat. Much of what remains of us won't look like us at all. It'll look like what other people became after encountering us. Erikson gave us an important language for this. In his theory of psychosocial development, adulthood eventually confronts what he called generativity versus stagnation. Generativity is the growing concern with creating, guiding, protecting, or contributing to what comes next. Parenthood can express it, but parenthood doesn't exhaust it. You can be generative through teaching, through mentoring, through building something meant to outlast your own participation, caring for a community, writing a book for a reader who hasn't been born yet, passing along knowledge without demanding that the recipient become a copy of you. The opposite is stagnation. The world contracts toward the self. My comfort, my recognition, my importance, my survival. Generativity asks us to widen the frame, not because the self stops mattering, because the self becomes capable of caring about consequences beyond its own lifespan. That may be one of adulthood's quietest achievements. You begin planting trees whose shade you know you'll never sit beneath. Robert Kegan approaches maturity through a different problem. His work examines how the structures through which we make meaning can themselves change. At one stage of development, we may be deeply embedded in expectations, relationships, identities, and systems of belief without being able to stand apart from them and examine them. What once had us can eventually become something we can look at. Kegan often describes development through this movement from subject to object. What I'm subject to governs me from the inside. What I can make object, I can observe, question, and take responsibility for. That becomes important when we think about legacy. Early in life, inheritance asks, what did they give me? Maturity gradually introduces another question, what am I passing on? That shift is enormous. You stop being only the recipient of a family system, a profession, a culture, or a set of wounds. You become one of its transmitters. And suddenly, what you haven't examined matters, because whatever remains unconscious in one generation may arrive as reality in the next. A child can inherit a fear without inheriting the event that caused it. An apprentice can inherit a bad habit without knowing which old problem once made the habit useful. A family can preserve a silence long after everyone has forgotten what the silence was protecting. Legacy includes what we deliberately give. It also includes what we fail to interrupt. That's why legacy belongs inside this arc on inheritance. We've been asking, what am I carrying and what is carrying me? Legacy adds a third question. What will someone else have to carry because I was here? That question can be uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to be morbid. Legacy isn't primarily about death, it's about consequence. You're already leaving one. Every person who depends upon you is learning something about dependence. Every person you lead is learning something about authority. Every person you love is learning what love permits. Every student learns not only what you teach, but what happens when they disagree with you. Every apology teaches something about error. Every refusal to apologize does too. We leave ourselves behind while we're still alive. This is where my system of narrative architecture becomes useful. Plot is what happens. Story is how what happens changes relationships. Legacy is what happens when those relational changes continue after the original actor has left the scene. The teacher teacher retires, but the student still hears the question she always asked. The parent dies, but a child continues setting the table the same way. The founder disappears, yet the people who remain still know which behaviors receive praise and which truths are not welcome. The event ends, the relational pattern keeps moving, and this also connects to my relational topology of consciousness. A person doesn't simply occupy a private mind and then vanish. We exist inside of one another, not mystically necessarily, but relationally, through memory, imitation, language, expectation, habits, stories, and standards of conduct. You may carry the dead in the way you answer a telephone, in the way you make soup, in the sentence you use when someone is frightened, in the fact that you refuse to humiliate a child because someone once humiliated you. Sometimes legacy is repetition, sometimes legacy is refusal. Breaking a pattern can be as generative as preserving one. This is why I'm suspicious of the phrase being remembered. Being remembered isn't always the highest goal. Some of the most consequential people in your life may already be disappearing from public memory. Their names won't enter history, but something they repaired in another person may continue for generations. Perhaps maturity doesn't ask, how do I make myself unforgettable? Maybe it asks, what can continue without requiring my name? That question changes leadership. It also changes parenting, teaching, and authorship. If everything collapses when you leave, you may have built dependence rather than legacy. A teacher's deepest success isn't a student who forever needs the teacher. It's a student who eventually carries the knowledge somewhere the teacher can't go. A parent's success isn't permanent obedience. It's a child capable of entering an unfamiliar future without needing the past to make every decision. Legacy is the art of becoming unnecessary without becoming meaningless. Different states make different decisions. Ego wants recognition. Love can tolerate anonymity. Generativity says, something good may happen after me, and I don't have to be present to receive the credit. That may be one of the final expansions of adulthood, to care for rooms you'll never enter, to protect people whose names you'll never know, to teach someone well enough that they can eventually disagree with you, to repair something even though the people who benefit may never know who repaired it. Maturity includes concern for futures we'll never inhabit. Not because our own lives are small, because a human life becomes larger when its horizon extends beyond itself. So perhaps the question isn't whether you'll leave something behind. You already are. The question is whether what remains will make the future heavier or give someone who comes after you a little more room to move. If this interlude made you think differently about what it means to leave something behind, make that known. Leave a rating or a review, not for recognition, for signal. So what survives us may become less concerned with preserving our image and more concerned with enlarging someone else's future. Until next time, remember, you don't become what you feel, you become what you return to, and what you return to returns as you.